because President Musk told them, President Musk said, don't do it. Don't do it. Shut the government down. Imagine. What does he know about what people go through is when the government shuts down? Are his employees furloughed? Hell no. Is he furloughed? No. And when you shut the government down, people don't get paid. And maybe if none of us got paid if the government shut down, some people on the other side of the aisle would feel differently.
This is my video update on this Saturday afternoon, December the 21st, coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with the big story, the horrific tragedy that happened in Magdeburg, Germany, where a Christmas market was attacked. A guy in his car drove through a Christmas market, and there are casualties, there are deaths from this horrific incident. I've seen the videos of the car driving through the market. A lot of people at this Christmas market. And from what I understand about the person who was driving this car through the market, he was wanted by Saudi Arabia. He was in exile in Germany. The Saudis wanted him on terrorism charges, from what I gather. We had this evening, early morning, yesterday evening, ballistic missile strikes into Tel Aviv. Some sources claim hypersonic missiles from Yemen, from the Houthis. I've seen videos of the missiles, at least one missile, which just got past Israeli air defense systems, and it just hit Tel Aviv. Nothing that the air defense or Iron Dome could do. So we had that story as well, and we also have reports of Ukraine UAVs, drones hitting the Kursk region, where reports are that we have 6 casualties, 6 deaths. The UAVs in the Kursk region, they hit civilian infrastructure, according to Russian media sources, including a primary school. And right after those UAV attacks in Kursk, we had and we have, because they're still ongoing, UAV strikes into Kazan, which is way far away from the front lines. We're talking really removed from the front lines. But the reports are that we have Ukraine UAVs hitting civilian infrastructure in Kazan as well. There doesn't seem to be any type of military target in these UAV attacks, these drone attacks. They're just launching them into Kursk, now into Kazan, and they're just hitting whatever they manage to hit. And that's still ongoing. The time that I'm recording this video, we are still getting reports that the UAVs are still hitting areas in Kazan. So a lot of stuff happening today. A lot of stuff going on. So the Washington Post, they put out an article with the title, European Allies Consider Deploying Troops to Ukraine After the War. The deployment of European troops could provide security guarantees to Ukraine and play to Trump's insistence that Europe carry more weight on defense. So according to the Washington Post, the EU, they're having their meetings, or they had their meetings in Brussels with Rutte. Look at this sidewalk. Dangerous walking in Old Town Limassol. They had their meetings with NATO, Rutte in attendance, with Zelensky in attendance, and the European Collective West leaders. They're still talking about how to get European troops into Ukraine. They're saying that the European troops will only go to Ukraine once Trump hammers out a ceasefire agreement with Russia or with the Zelensky regime. Once you get a ceasefire with Trump in office, then the Europeans are ready to deploy troops to Ukraine. Some sources say 40,000 troops. Other sources are saying 100,000 troops. Other sources are saying 150,000 troops on rotation. According to the president of Finland, we could be talking about 450,000 troops if you're rotating them in every 3 months. So the Europeans are not giving up on troops to Ukraine. They just can't figure out the formula, according to the Washington Post. And all of this discussion about troops to Ukraine is in anticipation of a Trump ceasefire, or at least that's the excuse that they're using. I think this is an excuse, a Trump ceasefire, and so we'll deploy peacekeepers. We'll take on the burden of peacekeepers in Ukraine in order to provide some sort of security guarantee. I think this is all BS. I think what the Europeans are trying to do is that they're trying to figure out a way to keep Trump bogged down in Project Ukraine, to keep the United States invested in Project Ukraine and invested in Europe and in NATO. And so they're saying peacekeepers. They're saying they will be deployed only in the event of a ceasefire, but my sense is that if they can get all of the EU member states to agree to troops in Ukraine, then they'll shift the goalposts. And they'll stop talking about troops in Ukraine only in the event of a ceasefire, and they'll stop using the words peacekeepers, and then they'll just deploy the troops to Ukraine. And the hope is that they'll deploy the troops to Ukraine, and then Russia will attack those troops, and then they can run to the United States. And they could tell the Trump administration, you have to rescue us. Look at what Russia's doing. They're attacking our troops. That's what I think this is all about. EU manipulation in order to figure out a sneaky way, a very, very sneaky way to get the United States and Trump bogged down in Project Ukraine. Because the Europeans, they know that Russia has stated on multiple occasions that any soldiers that enter Ukraine will be considered legitimate targets. They know this. And they know that Russia is absolutely against any type of European forces in Ukraine. I'm not talking mercenaries. Official European forces. So be very, very watchful as to how the European Union and the kleptocrats manipulate the narrative and the words that they use. Right now they're saying troops only in the case of a ceasefire and they will only be peacekeepers. Once they can get everyone in Europe to agree to the idea, to the framework of troops in Ukraine, then they're going to drop the ceasefire and they're going to drop the peacekeepers, and they'll start sending troops to Ukraine. And of course, they'll get European citizens to buy into this as well, because they'll tell the European citizens the troops are only going to go to Ukraine in the case of a ceasefire, and they're only going to be peacekeepers, and we'll define some sort of peacekeeping mandate, and they'll get buy-in from the European citizens as well. Once they get all the buy-in, they're going to send those troops with or without a ceasefire, and they're not going to be peacekeepers. And the Financial Times is reporting that they're having trouble. The war hawks in Europe, they're having trouble getting all of the EU member states to agree to the basic idea of peacekeepers in Ukraine, European troops in Ukraine. Not all of the countries are buying into this basic framework, this basic policy of sending troops to Ukraine. For example, Germany, Scholz is not for this, and Scholz is not for this. Well, it's obvious why he's not for this, because he has elections coming up in February, and the German population is absolutely against German troops in Ukraine. But Pistorius, the defense minister, he came out with a statement the other day, and he said that there will be no German troops in Ukraine. This is what the defense minister said. Scholz is saying no way, because for election reasons. Pistorius, he said there will be no troops, German troops in Ukraine, but, he said, but if all of the other EU member states agree to troops in Ukraine, he said Germany's going to have to send troops to Ukraine. So you see what's going on here? There were rumors that Scholz was going to go to Moscow to meet with Putin. But those rumors were quickly denied by the Kremlin and by Germany, Scholz's office. They said Scholz is not going to be going to Moscow to meet with Putin. That is not going to happen. Now, the Financial Times is reporting that Zelensky, after these meetings that have been taking place in Brussels, he's upset because the Europeans, they can't come up with a clear idea, a clear plan as to how and when they're going to send troops to Ukraine. Zelensky wants European troops in Ukraine, and not only that, he wants European troops in Ukraine and then Ukraine membership into NATO, because these European troops are going to be sent into Ukraine as a force that's not a part of NATO. This is not going to be a NATO operation, or at least this is how the Europeans are framing it. They're very manipulative, those Europeans, very, very manipulative. They're going to go to Trump and say, this is not a NATO thing. This is not a NATO thing, so are you on board, Trump? And Trump's going to say, whatever. That's what they're hoping Trump says. Whatever. If you guys want to send troops, go ahead and send troops. And they're going to say, this is not a NATO operation. And then when those troops get annihilated by Russia, they're going to say, this is a NATO operation, right? The artist Paparazzi, he's a famous artist in Cyprus. Magos 27, it's nice. So Zelensky is saying, look, yes, I want European troops in Ukraine, but those European troops in Ukraine are going to be sent. That one's not as nice. That's nice. That's all right. I don't know about that. This is nice. This is nice. This is art. This is art. Yeah, Zelensky's saying that these troops are a prelude to NATO membership. Even though it's not going to be a NATO operation, you're sending troops, European troops to Ukraine, because eventually these European troops will transition into NATO forces. And of course, the United States will be brought in. That's what Zelensky is saying, and that's what he wants. And that is what the FT is reporting. Now, Trump, he is coming out with a big deal for the European Union. He's proposing a big deal. He is ready to negotiate. And he's ready to negotiate on Ukraine. He's ready to negotiate on tariffs, on weapons to Ukraine, on NATO. Trump is ready to negotiate. And he posted on Truth Social, "I told the European Union that they must make up their tremendous deficit with the United States by the large-scale purchase of our oil and gas. Otherwise, it is tariffs all the way." So this is Trump's first salvo, his first negotiating position. He comes out and he posts on Truth Social, "If you don't want tariffs, you have to buy our LNG, our oil and gas." And then we are getting reports from the Financial Times. Trump wants 5% NATO defense spending target, Europe told. U.S. President-elect's closest foreign policy aides indicate he will continue arming Ukraine while pursuing end to the war. So the Financial Times is reporting that Trump's people, according to the Financial Times' sources, Trump's people spoke to some people in Europe, some officials in Europe, and they're telling Europe, look, Trump is ready to continue to send money and weapons to Project Ukraine. But what we want in return is we want European NATO spending to hit 5% of GDP. This is according to the Financial Times, 5%. Some countries are barely making 2%. Some countries are not even making 1 or 1.5%. And Trump wants it bumped up to 5%. But the Financial Times is saying that Trump will settle at 3.5%. He's starting with 5%, but he'll be okay if all of the countries in NATO, especially the European countries, if they raise their NATO spending to 3.5%. And if they do that, plus if they purchase U.S. oil and gas, then according to the Financial Times, Trump will send money and weapons to Ukraine. This is the grand bargain, the big deal that Trump is allegedly. This is all allegedly because we haven't gotten any of this from Trump. These are all officials from Trump's side. These are officials from Europe's side. We don't have any names. We just have officials and anonymous officials and officials who have spoken with the Financial Times. So none of this is really coming from Trump yet. But that's what the Financial Times is reporting. This is going to be the big bargain, the big deal that Trump is going to negotiate with Europe. This doesn't even seem like it's about Project Ukraine, or at least Russia. This doesn't seem like it's about Russia at all. This is about shaking down Europe, because Europe, they really have no leverage over the United States. They're 100% dependent on the United States, 100%. The EU has cut ties. They've burned bridges with everybody in the world. The global majority wants nothing to do with Europe. And Europe, over the past 3 years since the special military operation, they have signaled that they want nothing to do with the global majority. So they're 100% dependent on the United States. And the Trump team, I imagine the Trump team knows this. Where else are they going to get energy? From who else are they going to get energy from? At the moment, the United States. Pretty much the only game in town. Okay, they can get from UAE, Qatar, but I mean it's the United States. If they're cutting off Russia, which they have done and they continue to do, and Ursula said that she wants to cut off Russia, Ursula said it, I don't want any Russian gas or oil or anything, then they're going to have to look towards the US. 5 times more the price or 10 times more the price, but you know, what does Ursula care, right? What does she care? So yeah, I imagine that Trump understands this. I imagine his team understands that they have all the leverage over Europe, and so they're going to squeeze Europe. But how are you going to bump up your NATO spending to 3.5% of GDP? That's going to devastate the European economies. They can't do it. There's no way that they can do it. No way that they can do it. Not now. Germany's in recession. How are they going to bump up their spending? How's the UK going to bump up their spending to 3.5%? What is the UK at now? 2.5? Is it at 3% of GDP going to NATO? I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't even know if any of this is possible. The Financial Times is saying that all of this will be worked out in June. In June next year, 2025, at the NATO meeting when Trump is president. So by then, who even knows what's going to be going on with Project Ukraine? Who even knows? And from the US's side, from Trump's side, what weapons can he possibly give to Ukraine that is going to make any difference in this conflict? Nothing. He can't give anything. The only thing that the US can do to change the dynamics of the conflict is to put US boots on the ground. That's it. Nuclear weapons or US boots on the ground. That's the only thing that the US can do. There's no amount of money and no amount of weapons. I don't even think the US has the weapons to give to Ukraine that is going to change the trajectory of this conflict. The only thing that could possibly, and I don't even think that will work, that could possibly change how this war is going to end is putting the U.S. military, and I mean a lot of U.S. military, into Ukraine, and that's not going to happen. If Trump does stuff like that, then his presidency is over, finito. If Trump gives money, if he continues, at least for a long period of time, continues to give money to Project Ukraine, his presidency's in big freaking trouble. I know how he's going to spin this. If this is real reporting, if this story is to be believed by the Financial Times, and Trump comes out and says, I've worked out a deal with Europe. They're going to bump up their spending to 3.5% into NATO, and they're going to purchase U.S. LNG. And in return, I'm going to give some money to the Zelensky regime, money and weapons. I still think the American people are going to be pissed off at Trump because his campaign promise was no money to Zelensky. No money, no weapons to Zelensky, and I'm going to get a ceasefire in 24 hours. But forget about the 24 hours. Ceasefire. I'm going to get a ceasefire and no more money and weapons to Zelensky. I don't know how he's going to spin it, but I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it is going to work. So this whole article for the Financial Times doesn't sound too realistic, if you ask me. My sense of things is that Trump is putting the squeeze on Europe, and he's putting out some impossible terms in order to get Europe to agree to something else when they do eventually sit at the negotiating table. That's what I think is going on. He's putting impossible terms out there, terms that even he can't agree to. It's like sending weapons and money to Project Ukraine, but he's throwing it out there. And he's setting up the negotiations for when they do take place. That's my sense of things. So that's what the FT is reporting. It's interesting. The plan, according to the FT, is Europe. You increase your spending to 3.5% on weapons that you'll most likely purchase from the United States, and in return, the United States is going to send those weapons to Ukraine, which will be purchased by Ukraine with U.S. money I don't know, it seems like one laundry machine, washing machine, spin cycle of purchasing of money flowing in a washing machine. I don't know. Oh man, one big grift. That's all it is. It's one big freaking grift. So the EU is changing their messaging on Project Ukraine. And the European Council, after their meeting, they put out various statements about how they're going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes and stuff like that. But the interesting shift in their messaging, in their statements, is that they said instead of Ukraine must win this war, which is what they've been saying in all of their communiques and all of the statements that they've put out over the many years of Project Ukraine, they're now changing it from Ukraine must win this war to Russia must not prevail. It's an interesting shift. It's subtle, or maybe even not so subtle. But yeah, Russia must not prevail. So if you're the European Union and your messaging now is Russia must not prevail, I mean, Ukraine must win is very, very definite. I mean, there's no confusion there. Ukraine must win. It must deliver a defeat to Russia. Russia must capitulate. Right? That's what you're saying when you put out a statement in your communiques. Ukraine must win. Russia must be defeated, must capitulate, must surrender. But when you put out a statement like Russia must not prevail, well, that can be spun in a lot of different ways. Ukraine can end up surrendering to Russia. They may capitulate, but with the media, you can spin it into a narrative that Russia did not prevail. Yeah, Ukraine capitulated, but Russia still did not prevail. Why did it not prevail? It didn't prevail because its economy is in tatters. It's a gas station masquerading as a country, and Putin is a dictator and stuff like that. Its military has suffered 10 gazillion losses. So they can spin this. They're setting it up. They're setting up the narrative and the talking points so that they can spin this as a victory for the European Union. You see, we stood behind Ukraine and Russia did not prevail. Sneaky EU kleptocrats. So Zelensky, he is now taken on Slovakia's FICO. He's very upset with FICO, and they're in a bit of a row over gas supplies. Ukraine has said that they're going to cut off the gas that transits Ukraine from Russia, which Slovakia purchases and needs. And FICO is saying, no, not so fast. It's gotten to the point where there are reports which claim that FICO will be traveling to Moscow to meet with Putin to figure out a solution to all of this. Actually, Vučić, the president of Serbia, in an interview, he said that he believes FICO will indeed be in Moscow to discuss gas with Putin. FICO also said that look, the EU is supporting Ukraine and giving Ukraine money. We're giving Ukraine all this money, all this weapons, all of this support. But what about Slovakia? What about Slovakia, an EU member state, and our needs for gas, our need for energy, our needs to keep the factories operating, to keep our people warm? He's like, what about us? And we're an EU member state. It's a nice home, huh? A nice building. But abandoned. This could be a nice hotel or something, huh? So yeah, Zelensky and FICO are now in a bit of an argument. Zelensky's taken all of them on. He's taken Orban on. He's upset with Putin. He's calling him crazy. He's calling Orban annoying. And now he's looking to cut off the gas of Slovakia. Anyway, let's do a clown world. How are we doing on time? Yeah, let's do a clown world and we can wrap this video up. So many clown worlds to get to today. So the US, they removed the wanted bounty on al-Jawlani, $10 million that has been removed. Yep. As predicted, the $10 million bounty is gone for al-Jawlani. So now everyone can deal with al-Jawlani. The US, the UK, all of the collective West diplomats can sit at a table with al-Jawlani. Yeah. So anyone that was just about to collect the $10 million, well, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but there's no more bounty on the head of al-Jawlani. He's no longer a terrorist. Just, wipe all of that away. Forget about his past, forget about all the terrorism, the head chopping, the evil things that this guy did, continues to do. He's legit now, according to the US State Department. Moldova is Moldovan officials are saying that they are going to ban TikTok and Telegram. They're going to ban TikTok and Telegram ahead of parliament elections in 2025. That is what they're saying. Actually, let's go up that way. I don't want to walk down this way. Let's go up and take a right. So Moldova is going to ban Telegram and TikTok ahead of parliament elections, not because they have any information or anything that indicates any type of election meddling. Klaus Johannes of Romania said that it's nearly impossible to prove TikTok, Chinese. Whenever you say TikTok, you have to say Chinese. Chinese-owned TikTok Russian election meddling, according to the president of Romania, is nearly impossible to prove. Can't prove it. But they know it's happening. So Moldova is basically saying, we know it's going to happen. We can't prove it. We don't have any evidence that it's going to happen. But because we know it's going to happen, we're just going to ban TikTok and Telegram altogether. Oh boy, so that's Moldova. Salome Zurabichvili, since we're talking about democracy, Salome Zurabichvili put out a post on X. Where's her post? From Salome. Do I have it? I thought I had it. One second. I know I have it bookmarked. Salome Zura. I thought I had it bookmarked. Here we go. I have it. I do have it. Call for concrete action means new elections. That is the democratic way out if the crisis in which these elections have thrown Georgia. If the deep crisis in which these elections have thrown Georgia. Did I read that correctly? Call for concrete action means new elections. That is the democratic way out if the deep crisis in which these elections have thrown Georgia. That sentence doesn't seem to make sense. Am I the only one that's reading this? Doesn't seem to make sense to me. Anyway. Yeah, Salome Zurabichvili, who's president no more, she wants new elections because that's the democratic way. If you lose elections, the democratic way is to have elections again until you win. That's democracy. It's not democracy until you win. Unbelievable. To this day, she refuses to leave. To this day, she refuses to freaking leave as president. She cannot accept that she's gone. She can't accept it. That's Salome Zurabichvili. Oh, boy. The house guest that refuses to leave. That's what she is. The house guest that refuses to freaking leave. Leave. Leave already. Go home. Go home. I'm sick and tired of you hanging out at my flat. Anyway, that's Salome Zurabichvili. We are getting a freak out in the United States over Musk. And the Democrats, they are freaking out because they are saying that Musk controls Trump. Musk is the de facto president of the United States, according to the Democrats. Musk controls Trump. This freakout is happening after the Wall Street Journal posted an article which said that for 4 years, Biden was being controlled. he was being controlled. For 4 years, he had no idea what was going on in the White House. His White House aides were making all the decisions. Biden was diminished. That is what the Wall Street Journal said. His cognitive abilities diminished. And he wasn't calling any of the shots. He was completely controlled. Biden, completely controlled for 4 years, even before he became president, even during the elections, he was diminished, according to the Wall Street Journal. But now it's Musk controlling Trump. Can't make this stuff up, man. That's why it's clown world. That is why it is clown world. I think the Babylon Bee, 1 second. Do I have this bookmarked? Yes, I do. The Babylon Bee. They posted on X. Elon is controlling Trump. Complain people controlling Biden. You have a picture of Soros and Kamala. And finally, the final clown world comes from Canada, from Justin Trudeau, who's shuffling his cabinet, huh? Yeah, that's his strategy. I said this a couple of days ago. His strategy is not going to be to leave, not going to be to resign, not to call elections. His strategy is going to be to buy some time so he can stay in power. That's his strategy. And he's going to use the holiday season, Christmas and New Year's, to buy himself some time. And he's reshuffling his cabinet. He thinks if he reshuffles his cabinet, that's going to work. That will keep him in power. Shuffling the deck chairs of the Titanic. Anyway, Trudeau, he is going to be sending to Ukraine and to Haiti, he's going to be sending gender advisors, Canadian military deployed gender advisors to Ukraine and Haiti. That's Trudeau's contribution to Project Ukraine. Gender advisors. And I think that is the clown world. Get some souvlaki. Some souvlaki right here. Oh, some awesome birds at the pet shop, Kostas' pet shop. Let's check out the birds and we'll leave. Hey. Hey, buddy. All right, everyone, that's the video, theduran.locals.com. We are on, let's check out some more street art, graffiti street art. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I am wearing in this video update. Pick up a gift card for the holiday season, for Christmas and New Year's. I will see everybody tomorrow. Take care.